Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance, where people have conformed to the letter but not the spirit of a request. If you're new around here, please do hit subscribe down below so that you never miss out on another video. But for now, let's sit back, relax and enjoy some malicious compliance. Renewed lease with management company, but owner don't want any tenants after current lease period is over. Whatever you say. Another post today about landlord shenanigans in college reminded me of this story, and I thought the sub might get a kick out of it. I moved into a place in a college town, and it seemed perfect. Low rent, newly refurbished, backyard for my dog, included washer and dryer, etc, etc. The one problem I had was the owner. Even though he hired a property management company to collect rent and manage the property, he would constantly drop by to look over the property, saying he would renovate this or that part of the house, or just stay and shoot the bull after I gave him multiple, not subtle hints that I wanted him to leave. His son had previously lived in the unit, so it seemed he was used to being able to come by whenever he wanted. And as a retiree, he often wanted to stop by. Well, at the time, the state I lived in required a 24-hour notice for when a landlord or management company needed to notify you before they showed up at the residence. Also, in my lease, it specifically stated that any contract between the owner and myself needed to go through the management company. So, being tired of an old man hanging around my house, I called the management company to ask them to remind the owner that all communication from the landlord goes through them, and for them to tell him to give 24 hours notice before stopping by as stated in the tenant laws. He did not like this. I'll also say that in college towns, property management companies really want to know if you're renewing a lease within a few months of you moving out. They typically run on a schedule similar to semesters, as far as when people move in and out of their properties. I moved into this place in January, and they went as far as letting themselves into my house to leave a note asking me to let them know whether or not I was renewing my lease 2 weeks after I had moved in, as I had signed a 6-month lease. Not sure why they couldn't just send an email, mail the letter, or call me, but I think they learned their lesson about being pushy that day, as I was doing yoga in my underwear that morning, and the poor girl they sent over to deliver the renewal letter was probably traumatized for life after seeing my fat butt in a downward dog. Anyways, I liked the place enough to renew, and signed a year-long lease renewal. About 3 months later in March, I get a text from the owner saying that he heard I was interested in renewing my lease, but that his daughter had been accepted into the university, so he wanted her to stay there. This was confusing to me because A, he should have gone through the management company to talk to me, and B, I had a lease contract already signed by the rental company and him. I call the management company to sort this out, and the conversation goes something like this. So, the owner of the property I'm living in contacted me to say that he isn't interested in leasing the property anymore. Oh yes, it looks like the property won't be available next year. Okay, but I have a lease signed by both your company and the owner for the next year. Well, I'm sorry, but the owner no longer wants to lease the property out. We can help you find a new property in the area if you like. I had read the lease pretty closely, and at this point I had the suspicion that the owner and this company thought I would just roll over because they said so. Unfortunately for them, I was about to come back with some malicious compliance to their own lease. So you're saying that your company is breaking the lease contract we have for next year? Whoa, nobody is talking about breaking any contracts with anybody. That's what you just said. I have a lease for this place with your company, but the owner doesn't want to lease. We have a contract, but you're unable to fulfill the contract because the owner is backing out. No, this is something you need to sort out with the owner because he's backing out of your lease. By our current and renewed lease agreements, all contact between myself and the owner is required to go through your company. I already renewed the lease for the next year with signatures from both your company and the owner. At this point, the disagreement is between you and the owner over whether he wants to back out of the lease we all signed. Good luck sorting it out. We went back and forth like this for a while, and eventually I got passed up the chain at the management company to one of the owners. While I was waiting, likely because they were scrambling to come up with some way to convince me my complaint was a lost cause, I was reading my lease and noticed some vague wording having to do with the company being responsible for accommodations during periods when the property is unavailable or inaccessible. I spoke to the management company owner shortly after this. I know the property owner personally, and there's no disagreement between us about this property being available. He wants his daughter to live there next year, so we're not renting it out. That's your prerogative, but at this point, are you breaking our lease contract? No one is breaking the contract. Okay then, if you're saying you want to keep our contract, but the house will be inaccessible because the owner won't rent it out, then you're willing to put me up somewhere else for the duration of the lease for free. I pointed out in the lease where this statement was, and the MCO hung up the phone. I'm no lawyer, but the management company probably could have argued that wasn't the intention of the clause. Seemed to be more pointed at pest infestation, but was listed in a general section of the lease. I'm pretty sure they just gave it up, because I didn't hear from them about this after that conversation. They must have decided it wasn't worth the hassle from me, and told the property owner that they had his signature on a contract and weren't going to break, or honour under the circumstances of paying for me to live somewhere free for a year. There was some half-hearted text from the property owner after that threatening to evict me, but I did end up staying another year there. Oh, that'd be so weird. Imagine you just like chilling at home and then suddenly this random old dude just comes in your house and he's like, "Oh, I'm just here to visit." Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to live there. You want me to stay in the back room even though it's almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit? Okay. This just happened today. A little backstory. I work at a particularly green craft and fabric store. Every Thursday, we receive a truck. Truck day consists of unloading and organising everything on the truck by hand, pushed down to us on a large roller ramp. The team I work with is wonderful, but the head manager of the store I'm at is a piece of work. During truck days, she tends to just stand there and watch us all unload while yelling about how we're doing it all wrong. We are in fact following all the company procedures, so not wrong. Another thing to note is that corporate controls our air conditioning. I live in Maine, so it's always between 70 and 100% humidity all the time, which makes it feel a lot worse than it is. Corporate still hasn't kicked on our air yet, despite it being almost July. Our back room was almost 100 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take a few degrees, but the thermometer is a bit hard to read. 100% humidity. I was unloading the truck with 3 other people, and my boss was standing there yelling as usual. I started to feel symptoms of heat exhaustion and asked my boss if I could quickly get a drink of water. She told me I couldn't until the truck was completely unloaded, which was another half hour or so. She said something to me 30 seconds later, and I perfectly timed projectile vomited all over her. She started yelling at me and the rest of the team because we weren't helping her get cleaned up. To which they all responded along the lines of, "Well, you told her she couldn't go." "You won't let me go get water even though I'm having heat exhaustion? That's cool, I'll just do this instead." Yeah, I've had heat exhaustion before and it's definitely not something to just dismiss. It can be pretty serious, so it's probably good that she got puked on. Deny me my contract but make me do the work anyway? Fine, I'll do exactly what you ask. Okay, so I used to work in a fairly well-known, at least where I'm from, discount store where almost everything was the exact same price. Anyhow, I'd been working there for enough of a time to consider myself fairly experienced, and I worked pretty hard at that place for the first 2 managers we had. Enter Lazy Manager. My first manager had realised I had the potential to start as a supervisor, so he put in a request for my training to start before he left. The second manager honoured that, and everything was fine. Eventually, they had to leave, to be replaced with Lazy Manager. Our contracted managers, on a salary pay, unlike us as hourly workers, had a 40-hour minimum contract. I'm about 99% certain that they, the Lazy Manager, fudged those numbers, because if you come in at 7 AM and leave at 2 PM, that's 35 hours, since she always took 2 days off. Oh, and took an hour lunch every day, so that's 30 hours. Some days they even left earlier, like 12 or 1 PM. Naturally, that meant despite being in training, all the supervisor work fell to one other supervisor and me with barely any experience, staying 2 to 3 hours past my finishing time unpaid, because if the store wasn't tidy, I'd get it in the neck, and I started to get fed up, understandably, especially since you don't get the pay increase until you're on supervisor contract. The time comes for my training to end and my contract as a supervisor to start, and she decides I'm not ready yet, despite me running the store basically on my own for large periods of the week. Okay, fine, be awful, whatever. I carry on doing what I'm doing while looking for other work. About 3 months or so later, she tells me she's ready to finalize my contract. Great, but only if I can clear a 15 pallet delivery in 4 hours with an understaffed team. Are you insane? I worked my butt off and cleared 14 pallets, 2 of which I stayed late to finish. Nope, not good enough. Now I'm angry. Our retail director, hierarchy was Lazy Manager, Area Manager, Regional Manager, and then Retail Director, was due in for a visit the next day, and our store was awful as a result of lazy management and lack of staff. So when she asked me, "Bring down all the pallets from the upper warehouse," I saw a chance, a moment for potential revenge, and I took it. She wanted the whole delivery cleared so that it looked like we were some amazing hotshot store and she gets all the credit. We had a 13 pallet delivery, fairly large but not unusual, but we also had 11 pallets of old seasonal stock that gets binned/given away in the corner of the upstairs warehouse. Enter malicious compliance. Straight after Lazy Manager left, I brought down all 13 delivery packets, and I stuck them in the corner of the lower warehouse. Then, I brought down the 11 pallets of old seasonal stock and boxed it all in, making it look like a massive delivery that no one had bothered working. After tidying the store, I left it all there, awaiting tomorrow's mess. I had the day off, but I was absolutely not going to miss this. Our retail director was a firm believer in being on time, so if he said 9 AM, it wasn't 8:59 or 9:01, it was 9 AM on the dot. So, I got there a few minutes early and made myself busy deciding which bottle of drink I was going to buy. I see him come in, get greeted at the door, and make a beeline for the warehouse. About 30 seconds later, I hear frantic yelling and I can see them through the glass pane on the warehouse door. He's ripping her a new one. She actually starts crying, goes up the back way to the office, and a few minutes later has her stuff and is leaving. Retail director calls up the supervisor and tells them to close the store as normal and a temporary manager will be there tomorrow. I quit not long after anyway, but I wasn't letting that slide. Yeah, someone noted in the comments saying first mistake was working late with no pay, and yeah, from past experience, never ever work without being paid first. It's never worth it. Or at least don't work for free and then expect to get paid later, because yeah, it's not gonna work. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.